Alright, so, hey, we are going to be talking about Mario Kart today, specifically the Booster Course Pass, which, as most of you would know, is almost done by now. We just, as of recording this, about a week ago, we had the September Direct, and that's where we saw like our first look at Wave 6, so we already know what characters we're getting, and we know about Daisy Circuit. So the thing is, since I haven't really been making videos a lot lately, I actually have had predictions built up like multiple times over the last year or so, with just like all of my predictions as we've been having the waves released. So based on that, I want to go through all of those, just try to kind of have an idea of where my mind was during all of these times while predicting stuff, because definitely my mind has changed a lot since the first wave, because I have predictions going all the way back to the first wave, and basically anytime we got new like announcements regarding the Booster Course Pass, I had like some sort of updated prediction. So we are going to look here. This is my sort of spreadsheet that I made a while back, just to kind of keep track of all of my predictions. So we're just going to kind of go through it, see what I'm talking about with each of these. So attempt 1 would have been, as it says right here, before Wave 1 released. So this would have been that like 1 month period between the February Direct last year and the release of Wave 1. So these ones are going to be especially skewed, and there's going to be a lot of tracks that just don't exist. As we go through this, there's going to be a lot of stuff where I started adding stuff based on what was data mined for Tour and for the Booster Course Pass. So we'll see a lot of that in just a bit. But for now, obviously, Wave 1 is exactly correct. Nothing really changed there. So moving on to Wave 2, so I do distinctly remember having the prediction of New York Minute being the first course of the Turnip Cup, and my thought process, obviously from the start, it kind of seemed like we were going to be getting a tour course to start every cup in the Booster Course Pass. Like, I know we only had 2 cups at the time, but it just seemed like with both of them starting with a Tour City course, and with there being so many Tour City courses, it just felt like that was what was going to happen. So I felt like they were probably going to just go on and knock New York Minute out of the way fairly quickly. So that's why I just had as the next one. Obviously, this ended up being true when we got to Wave 2. But anyway, so next we have SNES Vanilla Lake 2, which that one, I do remember predicting a SNES course. Pretty early on, I figured we were going to get a Vanilla Lake just because it was one of the SNES track themes that we never got. And I kind of figured it might be in a summer wave just to have that sort of like juxtaposition, like, oh, it's hot outside so you want to cool down or whatever. Which I was on the right track with that, since we did end up getting Snowland in Wave 2, but wasn't quite there. And also, going through all of this, again, it was very obvious from the start that all of this content was getting pulled from Mario Kart Tour. So a lot of, especially with Wave 1, there's gonna be super outdated stuff, just because it's mostly based on stuff that was already in the game. There was a whole just truckload of tracks that came out later in the year that it very much skewed a lot of our predictions. So I think that is what I generally try to prioritize with all of these. Now this one confuses me, DS Luigi's Mansion, because this one, I feel like I would have been thinking from the start that I was going to be doing Luigi's Mansion in like a fall wave, so I don't really know why I predicted that for Wave 2. I guess I had sort of in my mind where there was a chance that Wave 2 could come out later than we were expecting, so it could end up being like Wave 2 comes out towards September and then Wave 3 would be around Christmas, which I mean kinda was the case, but Wave 2 ended up being beginning of August, so it ended up being a more summery wave, which I think that carries over to Maple Treeway being there, which also very much confuses me, because yet again, I thought I pretty early on would have assumed that that would have been Wave 3 or Wave 6. Wario Shipyard, that one I know was a recently added course in Tour at the time, but yeah, I'm not really... I get that this one feels like one that I just kind of threw in there just to throw it in. So Los Angeles Slaps, even when we were getting closer to Wave 2, I really was thinking that this was going to be in that wave. But also to some extent it was kind of hoping just because I kind of wanted to get this track sooner rather than later. At this point, seeing how Wave 5 turned out, I don't really mind that we had to wait, but yeah. So for Dino Dino Jungle, I figured we would get a GameCube track in Wave 2 just because we didn't get one in Wave 1. I kind of prioritized having a SNES course and a GameCube course in that wave. Dino Dino Jungle, I think I only really had down because it was one of the only... Actually, it was the only GameCube track at the time that wasn't in Mario Kart 8, that was in Mario Kart Tour, because at the time, literally the only two GameCube courses in Mario Kart Tour were Dino Dino Jungle and Yoshi Circuit, so I just figured from the start that that one was probably a lot. Might not be now, we'll get to that later, but yeah, and then Kalimari Desert, I just kind of... I figured that one was coming regardless, and I feel like if I did intentionally put it in Wave 2 for a reason, I do feel like a desert track kind of suits a summer wave. Also, I wanted to see this tweet from 2016 finally come into fruition, so there's that too, I guess. So Wave 3, some of these confuse me, but some of these make sense to me. I'm gonna start with London Loop. So I'll be real, at the time, I didn't really know a whole lot about, like, the Tour City courses. Like, I had played Tour, like, I had very loosely kept up with it since it launched. I didn't really get super into it until the Booster Course Pass happened, but I did see that London was one of the earlier city courses we got, so I think that was a very big part of why I ended up paying that here. 3DS Rock Mountain, so I had in my mind from the start that, like, they had to put Rock Mountain in the Rock Cup. There was really no other reason than that. I just felt like it had to happen. So for the next two, so DK Summit is in Mario Kart Tour. It was one of the earlier Wii tracks, which, going back to Maple Treeway, I think is a big reason why I put that one in Wave 2. Just because Maple Treeway and DK Summit were at the time the only Wii tracks we had in Tour, so I figured they would get those out. They would probably have more progress done on them since they had been in Tour for so long. But what's confusing me is why did I put DK Summit and Frappe Snowland next? Not even just in the same cup, but next to each other within that cup. I really don't understand that. I mean, obviously Frappe Snowland was in Tour, so that's basically the only reason why I chose that. Moving on to the Moon Cup, I know I put Merry Mountain because it was a Christmas track, and at the time we didn't really know about them having the non-city Tour Nitros being unlabeled, so I figured that that one would just take up one of the Tour slots since at the time we only had 2 non-city Nitros, and as far as I was personally aware, Wario Coliseum, that was very much a coat pick. But also kind of funny that I ended up putting down Wave 4 since that's where we ended up getting Waluigi Stadium in the end. Cheep Cheep Island was the only other non-Bowser Castle... It was one of 2 non-Bowser Castle GBA tracks that were in Mario Kart Tour at the moment, not counting Sky Garden, which was in Wave 1. It was Cheep Cheep Island and Sunset Wilds were already in there, so you'll see both of those sort of incorporated into this list. Obviously, we're most likely not getting Cheep Cheep Island now, but it was definitely a very popular choice at the time for a GBA pick, just because we had so few options at the time. I'm very glad we have a lot more now, and that those were the ones that they went with. Koopa Cape and Airship Fortress were both coat picks that I kind of figured would get in regardless. Airship Fortress seems to have not made it, but at the very least got Koopa Cape there. And I don't really know if I really put much thought into the ordering on this one, aside from making sure I didn't double up on like the same game in the same wave, which ended up not even mattering considering we got 2 3DS tracks in Wave 3 and 2 Wii tracks in Wave 5, potentially 2 Wii tracks in Wave 6. So for Wave 5, I had Sydney in there, which that's pretty cool considering we did end up getting Sydney Sprint into Summer Wave last year, but I had it predicted for a year later, so can't really count it. Koopa Beach I definitely threw in just because of it being a Summer Wave. Same with Delfino Square. I think Bowser's Castle and DK Mountain were kind of in there just to have like harder tracks getting towards the end of the pass. But also I still really don't think I was putting that much thought into it. Choco Island 2, I think I just threw in just to get another SNES theme in there. And then Toad's Factory was definitely a coat pick. Nothing more than that, especially considering it's now not even in tour. Although I think that image I was originally looking at was saying Toad's Factory was data mine, but I think what they were basing that off of was the conveyor belt assets that were in the game's files. But yeah, I know DK Mountain was definitely put on here because of that like chart that I was talking about, because I remember that being on there. So Wave 6, at the time we didn't have any other tour tracks outside of Singapore released, so even though I think that chart did specifically say something about an Amsterdam track and a Bangkok track, I ended up just putting question marks, I guess. But I have Sunset Wilds in Wario Stadium 64. Sunset Wilds felt like a pretty easy pick regardless. Nothing really more to say there. And then N64 Wario Stadium was definitely just thrown in there just because everyone was like, oh, since we're getting so much DLC, we're probably gonna finally get a remake of Wario Stadium 64. We didn't, and then Spiny Cup is literally just all the other Rainbow Roads. Which, I mean, in all fairness, if we're going for the Booster Course Pass as a whole, we potentially got half of the tracks in this original Spiny Cup. Assuming that Wii Rainbow Road is indeed in the game, which I'm pretty confident it's going to be. But yeah, that pretty much does it for that attempt. So this next attempt is going to be right after Wave 1 came out, and it's going to be after we had gotten the data mines that night, when people data mined the files of the game after the update, and they found like the banner leak and the prefixes and all that. So if I'm not mistaken, this is going to go on the prefixes, but I will just give a heads up. From what I remember of the last time I looked at these, I think I did make some like changes where I originally had a track in a certain spot that ended up being correct, and then I ended up changing it, or at the very least within the right wave. So yeah, let's move on to that. So Wave 1, starting on this one, I started highlighting all the waves that were currently out with green. So Wave 2, so I put Amsterdam at the beginning of Wave 2. I don't know why I moved no, I do know why. I moved New York May over there because I saw someone on Twitter, when Amsterdam was coming out for tour, someone was like, oh, what city track would be perfect for the Turnip Cup? Because there was like that art with like Rosalina, I think, picking the turnips or something for like the promo art for Amsterdam. So yeah, that's pretty much it for that one. Going on, we have a SNES Mario circuit. I predicted 1 just because it was the original, so I thought they would go for that. But I'm still pretty happy that we ended up getting a Mario circuit that way. I figured we would. I figured if we were going to get a SNES Mario circuit in any wave, it was going to be that wave. But yeah. Koopa Troopa Beach, Summer Wave, N64 slot, it just kind of connected in my mind. Waluigi Pinball, when I was looking at it and comparing it to Wave 1, I saw that they ended the first cup of Wave 1 with a big fan favorite track, And seeing how Wave 2 was ending with the DS track, I just immediately was thinking, okay, yeah, that's going to be Waluigi Pinball for sure. So that's pretty much my reasoning for that. And I mean, it was correct, so you can't really be too mad. So yeah, New York Minute, Right Wave, Wrong Cup, Cheap Cheap Island. I put that as a Summer Wave pick, but honestly, looking back at it, I should have swapped either GBA or N64 slot out, just because I feel like having double beach tracks kind of clashes. DK Summit, that was me coping and wanting it earlier than we got it, but I also figured yet again they might go for like what they did with having Snowland in Wave 2, so yeah. And at this point, I still wasn't entirely convinced that all the blank slots were going to be Tour Nitros. I wasn't completely convinced on that until we got Sky High Sunday in Wave 2. So, for pretty much all of those slots, I did this thing where I like bold, italicized, underlined whatever course I put in that slot, and just use that sort of like a bonus slot for whatever I thought would fit there. So Daisy Cruiser I put there because for one, it's a GameCube track, we didn't get one of those in Wave 1. And then for another, it's a very summer feeling course, which again was on the right track eventually with that, but not for the right wave. Wave 3, I have Vancouver and Mary Mountain as the tour tracks. Yet again, didn't think that this slot was going to be Mary Mountain, so just figured that would be right there. Finally put Luigi's Mansion in Wave 3, so glad I did that. Sunset Wilds, I think I just kind of threw in there both to get earlier and just to have it out of the way. When I saw there was a 3DS track at the end of the Rock Cup, I was like, yep, gotta be Rock Mountain. And that goes for the Moon Cup as well. Once I saw there was another 3DS track in Wave 3, once I saw it was at the very end of the line, and once I saw it was in the Moon Cup, I was like, yeah, no, that cup is ending with 3DS Rainbow Road, and there's no way around that. Waluigi Stadium ended up pretty much being on the money, even if they mix some stuff up in the end. And then Frappe Snowland, Snow Track, Winter Wave, whatever. Wave 4 got Sydney and Los Angeles. Yet again, Los Angeles, I mean, that's on the right track for the original version of this wave. And honestly, so I know the ice cream track, Sky High Sunday, I know there's an image of that in the banner leak, so I think I wanted to fit that in somewhere. And so I put that one in this slot since Ninja Hideaway was in the ending slot for the Lucky Cat Cup. So I figured they would just kind of do the same thing there. But Kalimari Desert there, don't really know why. Also looking at the Boomerang Cup, these two specifically, this is like the alternate version, or this is like the alternate reality version of Wave 4. Specifically the Fruit Cup, like instead of DK Summit and Riverside Park, we get DK Mountain and Lakeside Park. That's kind of funny. Airship Fortress, Koopa Cape, that was just to get those in there, I think. Wave 5, I know I threw Mushroom Gorge on there just because it was recently in tour, so I figured it would probably show up eventually. Yet again, wasn't really taking into account difficulty when doing all of this, otherwise I probably would have put Mushroom Gorge in Wave 2 instead of Wave 5, and probably bumped DK Summit and Koopa Cape up a wave each. But yeah, that's about it for that. GBA Luigi Circuit I know was leaked for tour, so that was pretty much my whole reasoning there. Wario Shipyard, talked about that earlier, same as Vanilla Lake. Dow Dow Jungle, I'm glad I moved later on just because it's a special cup track, it made sense to be later. And then just got Berlin, I guess. And then Wave 6, by now we have Bangkok as well. I just threw that one towards the end just because it was new, so I figured longer development time for it. I was still trying to cope with the all Rainbow Road shit, even though there being a tour track at the beginning of the Spiny Cup kind of contradicted that. But yeah, you see I threw GBA Rainbow Road at the end of the Acorn Cup and the rest of them at the end there. Don't really know why I put London Loop as the last city track. That honestly really confuses me, but Maple Treeway, I know I put there just because it was a fall wave, and the other fall wave didn't have a Wii slot. So I think I put Maple Treeway there just because Wave 3 at the time didn't have a Wii track slot. So I figured that kind of narrowed it down to Wave 6, which, yet again, was on the money, but Maka Woohoo was very much not. So attempt 3 is gonna come... I probably made this attempt right after I watched the trailer for Wave 2, but either way it would have been in that week between the reveal and release of Wave 2. So got those two right there. I just didn't even... Oh, you know what I did with this one? I think what I did was I just moved around the courses that were confirmed for that wave. So, since I had Mushroom Gorge right here, I moved DK Summit out of Wave 2 and into Wave 5. So yeah, I don't think I put very much thought into this at the time. So let's just move on to Attempt 4, which is going to be interesting, because this came after the music lead. So we're going to have the original version of Wave 3 here, where we had London Loop, Peach Gardens, Boo Lake, Rock Mountain, and the Rock Cup, and Berlin, Waluigi Stadium, Marymount, and Rainbow Road in the Moon Cup. I just highlighted in this color just to kind of show that, like, it wasn't really my prediction, but it also wasn't directly confirmed yet. So looking at this, looks like I kind of just moved stuff around. So we got Amsterdam and Singapore and Los Angeles in Wave 4. Got DK Summit, Cheep Cheep Island, Dada Jungle, and Airship Fortress in Wave 4 as well. Okay, yeah, Yoshi's Island, I know I put there specifically because it was in the Fruit Cup, and, you know, that fruit's directly associated with Yoshi to begin with. So that was pretty much... That felt like a given to me. And this is the point, as I'm seeing, where I both started using data mines to my advantage, like the Tor data mines, specifically for Nitro tracks, but it's also the point where I started putting a lot more thought into some of this stuff. So we have Yoshi's Island there. DK Summit just kind of made sense to me for Wave 4, just because Wave 4 was going to be like sort of that winter to spring transition, so it could kind of fit into either of those. Dada Jungle, I think I just kind of threw there just to get down somewhere. And then Cheep Cheep Island, yet again, we still didn't really have that many GBA tracks in Tour, like pretty much exactly the same amount that we had before. They didn't really start going hard on the GBA courses until they added Boo Lake, which would have been around Halloween. But yeah, and I know I did want Broken Pier to be this slot, but I think I'd put Boo Lake just because I figured that was the more likely of the two. Looking at this, I don't know why I put Singapore there. I think it's probably just a leftover from the last one, and I just forgot to update it. And I also forgot to put Bangkok in its place, which I'm pretty sure Bangkok was originally supposed to start the Cherry Cup, if I'm not mistaken. Aside from that, Koopa Cape and Sunset Wilds, they felt like obvious choices, but obviously ended up having those correct. Ended up getting the bathroom track in Wave 5, which I'm pretty happy about too. Actually, and then also Daisy Cruiser ended up being in Wave 5 in the end as well, which, again, summer track, or like summer wave, cruise ship track, it just made sense. And then Vanilla Lake, yet again, just put it down because we hadn't gone one we made outside of Tour, and then also snow track for the summer. And then left those tour slots open because I figured those were going to be cities we didn't know about. Vancouver, Maple Treeway, and going back to Sunset Wilds, all three of those were also part of the music league, so we knew what spots those were going to be in. But I know we had those two blanks right here as well as a blank right here, which, as it turned out, one of those was actually just a placeholder slot, and then the other two are going to be the Piranha Plant tracks in Tour. But obviously at the time we didn't really know this. So Spiny Cup, we Rainbow Road made sense as like the ending of the Booster Course Pass, just because it's a Wii track and it's at the end of the last cup, so obviously. And then I know I had a theory for a while that GameCube Bowser's Castle might end up being in there. Obviously that never happened, but I think that would have been a pretty cool pick. Although I am glad that it does seem like we are going to end up getting a Bowser's Castle in the Spiny Cup in the end. So that's pretty exciting to me. Looks like Attempt 5 is just after Wave 3 dropped. So I moved Maple Treeway out of Wave 6, reshuffled here. So looking at Wave 4, okay, I know for a fact I swapped Koopa Cape and DK Summit just as a cope for getting Koopa Cape earlier. Even though DK Summit I did also really want, because Koopa Cape and DK Summit were like my top 2 Wii tracks. But Koopa Cape was my number 1, so I just wanted to have that confirmation earlier, I guess. So we got Amsterdam, Singapore, Los Angeles like we originally had. By now, Riverside was in tour, and that just felt like it fit for Wave 4. Plus, I wanted one of the GBA Jungle tracks in 8 Deluxe. And it just seemed like since Riverside was in tour, that was probably the only one we were going to get, so I kind of swapped to just rooting for that one instead of Lakeside. Little did I know we would end up actually getting Lakeside eventually, which I am a little sad that we're probably not going to see that in 8, but it's okay. We could save for next game. Moved Waluigi Stadium to Wave 4, probably just because I figured they moved it out of Wave 3, so they probably just bumped it up a wave. Yoshi's Island, yet again, made sense for the Fruit Cup, and that was what I was basing my theory off of for when Wave 4 would drop, because I figured Yoshi's Island would come out during the Yoshi Tour that next year, and they would probably try to market Yoshi's Island as a new track for 8 Deluxe, so I figured that it would probably be one of those situations where Yoshi's Island comes out in 8, and then like a week or 2 later, then it would come out in tour, and they would like kind of have that cross advertising and all that. Airship Fortress, that was just kind of me seeing that as the last chance for that track, so kind of a cope, kind of a like, I think this could still happen kind of pick, especially with it being the last track before the Tour Nitro. Wave 5, I put DK Summit there. I know I swapped, but in between this point and getting Bowser Castle 3 in tour, I swapped to thinking Koopa Beach might end up being the Wave 5 SNES track, just because I figured there was probably going to be at least one more DS retro track in the game, just because we got most of those in Wave 1 and then didn't really get any since. So I figured we could probably get Koopa Beach 2 in Wave 5 just to get a little more DS representation there. It seemed like Mushroom Bridge was gonna be that, but it seems like Mushroom Bridge just isn't happening at this point. And I think I was also kind of denying Mushroom Bridge just because I was still trying to keep my Bowser's Castle theory alive. So yeah, that was more or less that. I think I just threw Madrid and Orlando in there because I remember at the time people were thinking we were getting an Orlando track, because we had Mob OR in the data mines for tour, which it had assets related to the gates like we get in city tracks, since they have different variants, and the non-city nitros up until that point had not been like that, so everyone figured, okay, so this is definitely a city track, so it's probably going to be Orlando. But yeah, it ended up being Ocean Ruins, and it ended up being Piranha Plant Cove, so interesting. Oh, you know what? I'm seeing that I put Piranha Plant Cove here. This must have literally been the week it was announced, but before it like dropped. Like, this was probably in that little like section of time. And then Wave 6, I had Vancouver still. I put Athens in Wave 6. Which ended up actually being accurate, even though they both got moved to Wave 5 in the end. Got Dino Jungle, which could happen, but I'm still kind of thinking DK Mountain might be more likely. We have Mob DK, Mob MU, which Mob MU is definitely a test track at this point. Wii Rainbow Road, and then Bathroom. Attempt 6. This is after Wave 4 was announced. So obviously updated that. So it looks like I was trying to keep up with this as stuff came out in tour. So you can see I have like the actual name for Athens Dash. Got Koopa Cape, Sunset Wilds, Los Angeles. I figured Los Angeles was probably actually moved to Wave 5 just because it's a summer wave and Los Angeles just fit for a summer wave. Had Rio, which a lot of people were thinking we were going to end up getting a Rio track, which did not happen. It ended up being Rome instead. But then, yeah, I got Daisy Cruiser, Bowser Castle 3, and then I switched Piranha Plant Cove to Wave 5 because I figured that was probably going to end up being our Nitro for Wave 5, where PD Piranha would be announced alongside it. Which we did get PD in Wave 5, but not with Cove, and not with the other Piranha Plant track that we would eventually get in Tour, which is wild to me. Wave 6, I don't know why I put Mushroom Bridge here. I think it was purely because I wanted Daisy Cruiser to be in Wave 5. That's probably the only reason. But yeah, I got Vancouver, got Madrid, which honestly probably is gonna be accurate. But it ended up being accurate for Wave 6 at the very least, considering Madrid ended up being our last city track. Got Wii Rainbow Road, and then I pretty much from here on out I'm going to be coping Airship Fortress in the Wave 6 mystery slot. Because at the time I figured that MobMD, like at that point I figured MobMD was going to be a test track. Or not MobMD, MobMU, my bad. So, attempt 7, this would be after we got the Squeaky Clean Sprint tease in the Direct. So you can see I have that there now. So my idea here was that they were probably going to just go on and have Athens and Rome in the same wave. And the only reason I did that was because I thought they were still going to save Vancouver for Wave 6. Just because that one had sort of like the fallish feel to it, which ended up not happening, and I'm honestly not really surprised about that, considering Athens and Rome probably wouldn't be the best to have in the same wave. But yeah, I got Mushroom Bridge, Koopa Cape, Athens. Oh, yeah, at this point I was predicting that, because we knew that at least one wave was going to end up having 2 GameCube tracks. So at this point, I swapped things around, and I figured Wave 5 was going to be the one to get 2 GameCube tracks, being Mushroom Bridge and Daisy Cruiser, since both of those made sense to be in Wave 5 and not Wave 6. Kept Koopa Cape and Sunset Wilds, and obviously Athens, Los Angeles, Rome, and Squeaky Clean. And then for Wave 6, I figured since the SNES track we were going to get was probably Bowser Castle 3, it was probably going to be moved to Wave 6, because, like, it's a Bowser Castle track. Which I'm kind of surprised I didn't already put into the Spiny Cup like I'm going to do in a minute. But yeah, got Vancouver, Madrid, Dada Jungle, got Mob DK, Airship Fortress, obviously Rainbow Road is still at the end, and then got Piranha Plant Cove. Which I'm pretty sure I put Cove right here, just because I figured they were probably going to save both of the Nitro tracks for Wave 6, just to keep some hype for that wave. And I figured Piranha Plant Cove could end a cup. It's still a non-city Nitro, but it takes the place of a city, just with it having multiple variants. So attempt 8 is going to be after Wave 5 came out. And I had 2 alternatives for this. The first one is assuming that Mushroom Bridge was indeed replaced, and the other is assuming Mushroom Bridge was still in. And so I had Rome and Madrid, and I put Madrid right there just because it was the last city track we got, so I figured they might end up doing the same thing where it's the last city track for the Booster Course Pass. And that had Rome right here. But I could kind of see it being either way, because I could see them wanting to end on a nighttime city track, if that makes any sense. But aside from that, still have Cove where I have it for the same reason I explained earlier. Got Pipeline right here, just because I figured it's still going to have a Nitro in both cups. And then I put Bowser Castle 3 right here to have a Bowser Castle leading into a Rainbow Road. And then I swapped my prediction to DK Mountain and then had Airship Fortress after that. And I mainly did that because I didn't want to have my prediction be like Dino Dino Jungle and then Airship Fortress, because that would have literally been the exact same as the middle of the 3DS Lightning Cup. So that was my reasoning there. And then otherwise I put Mushroom Bridge right here just because it was an easier track. And then put Bowser Castle 3 just to have it right there as well. Partially because I figured they weren't going to do 2 GameCube tracks in a row. So we would need one in each cup. And it made more sense to move Bowser Castle 3 out of the Spiny Cup rather than Wii Rainbow Road. And then other than that, it was just formatting. So this is our final attempt. Starting at the Acorn Cup, obviously we're going to start with a tour track for each one. I think I'm going to stick to what I originally had. I'm going to put Rome in the Acorn Cup, and I'm going to put Madrid in the Spiny Cup. And then going from there, so I think I'm still going to also put Piranha Plant Pipeline in the Spiny Cup as the second course as well. And I think in general, I'm just going to make the Spiny Cup the same. So we're going to have SNES, Bowser Castle 3 as the third course, and Wii Rainbow Road as the last course. So Acorn Cup, just thinking about our options. So we know we're getting Daisy Circuit somewhere, and I think it's going to be the second track of the Acorn Cup. And I only say that because we also still have a GameCube track on the table, and I definitely think it's going to be one of the jungles, just because I feel like they're going to prioritize those over Mushroom Bridge, like no matter which one it ends up being. So I think I'm still just going to go for DK Mountain as the GameCube pick for this wave, just because, I mean, DK Mountain I feel like is a more apparent fan favorite track than Dino Dino Jungle is, and then obviously they've still, even with this year's waves having fewer just normal retro tracks, they've been making sure that like the last retro track in each cup is still like a big fan favorite. Like if we're looking back at Koopa Cape, Moonview Highway, Waluigi Stadium, DK Summit. So I think that's more or less what we're gonna go for there. And then I'm definitely going to be predicting Piranha Plant Cove as the finisher for the Acorn Cup. Yet again, because it has the different variants, so it kind of fills the slot of it being a city track. So anyway, yeah, that is my prediction for Wave 6 of the Booster Course Pass. And I'm glad I found some way to show like my history of predicting the Booster Course Pass, just because I never did get around to making videos on all of those, like sort of snapshots, I guess, at this point. But yeah, I'm really excited to see how the DLC ends. Even if there were a lot of tracks that like I wanted to see that I thought were locks for some of them, or at the very least were in tour that didn't end up making it into the pass, I'm still really happy that we even got this DLC to begin with. And I mean, it basically revitalized my love for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, because I had fallen off hardcore for years, because I had played at least 100 hours on the Wii U version of Mario Kart 8, plus another 100 or so on 8 Deluxe. So I was just like hella burnt out on 8, just in general, but it's just been really nice, like actually feeling inclined to play the game again. And especially having so many retro tracks available on the Switch that otherwise wouldn't have been available until we got Mario Kart 9. Like, I'm really just stoked that we ended up getting this DLC. I still kind of hope that there's just a chance we get one more year just to get all the major Mario Kart Tour retro tracks that haven't made it into the DLC yet into the game. But if that doesn't happen, which I don't think it is, because they did kind of double down on Wave 6 being the final wave when the Direct happened. At the very least, I'm sure that means Mario Kart 9 is probably coming very soon, or whatever it's going to be called. So definitely excited for just the future, seeing what we end up getting, because, I mean, 8's been out for almost 10 years now, which is fucking crazy. So I'm just really excited to see what's next for the series. Anyway, that is about it for this video. I guess I could just say the usual spiel of like and subscribe, I guess. I don't know. I'm still kind of new to all this, but we'll get there. Anyway, that's about it. So, bye! Okay, so I know this isn't my usual format for the end edits. Usually it's some kind of like meme or some shit like that. But hear me out. I had a thought occur to me between filming this video and where I am right now editing it. And that is, we knew that there was a mystery slot going into Wave 6, right? Just because it seemed very unlikely that they would end up putting Mushroom Bridge in Wave 6. But what I'm wondering is, why would Nintendo decide to go on and reveal the mystery slot in Wave 6? Because I feel like they would know what the fans are expecting, and they definitely want to have some sort of surprise save for us going into the actual reveal for the wave. So hear me out. Now, SNES Bowser Castle 3 has a lot going for it. It's a SNES theme that's never been remade. It's the one SNES course that got like a full overhaul remake, GBA style, and it's a Bowser's Castle track, which has infamously not had any retros in Mario Kart 8 up until now. But what if Nintendo knows we're expecting it? And I have two options. One of them is very copy, one of them is a little more reasonable. So option one, the copy one, what if they swapped it for Airship Fortress after seeing how badly fans wanted it in? I imagine it wouldn't have been too hard to port it in from Tour, and I'm sure they had enough time to do the textures, at the very least, since Wave 4 dropped and people were getting mad about DS Mario Circuit getting in. But I do think there's somewhat of a chance, but this is also very tinfoil hatty, and I'm not actually believing in this one. Option 2 is, what if we get GBA Bowser's Castle 4? That would give us one more GBA track, that way we have one in each wave. And then also it's the one GBA Bowser's Castle that both hasn't been remade in a game outside of Tour and had an actual overhaul again, like a lot of these GBA remakes lately have been getting. I know a lot of people have been pointing out how GBA Bowser's Castle 4 feels scaled up in Tour, and the only other track that's like that is Wii Rainbow Road, which has a lot of people thinking that both of those were being made with the Booster Course Pass in mind. And I wouldn't have thought this, but I do remember hearing people also talking about how the texture work in Tour for Daisy Circuit felt suspiciously good compared to what we normally get in Tour, and we're thinking we might get it in 8 because of that. And I don't necessarily want to completely buy into this. My prediction is still on SNES Bowser Castle, but if we do get GBA Bowser Castle, it would make sense to me, and I don't want to discount this potential theory because it honestly does make a lot of sense to me. Because why else would they go on and reveal the one surprise track that we presumably know about if they didn't have another surprise up their sleeve for the last wave? That is, again, assuming we don't get more DLC. So anyway, that's my crackpot prediction shit for today. Bye!